Welcome to the Manx Theatre Podcast.
Come on to the theatre.
Hello and welcome back to episode 44 of the Manx Theatre Podcast with me, Neil Callin. Thank you to everyone who's listened to our previous episodes. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome along and thanks for joining us. In this podcast, we like to try and keep you up to date with what's going on in theatre in the Isle of Man, chatting to the cast and creatives of upcoming shows to find out a little more about the shows and the people behind them, and also what our Manx born and bred performers are doing further afield.
Coming up on this week's podcast.
I'm joined by Kate Cowley and Phil Bird from the Manx Operatic Society, of head of their production of Annie Get Your Gun at the Gaiety Theatre, which opens later this week. You can still listen to all of our previous episodes through all the usual podcast outlets and at manxradio.com/podcasts. Whilst you're there, make sure to give us a like and click subscribe or follow or whatever it is you need to do to make sure you never miss an episode. Well, it's been a busy few weeks since the last episode, with the Service Players, Kensington Arts and Tailoring Productions holding casting sessions for their upcoming productions of One Man, Two Governors, Disney's Frozen Jr. and Kinky Boots, respectively. Taylorian's cast includes Casey Crane as Charlie Price and Victoria Wilde as Lauren, Kate Stobart as Nicola, Matt James as Factory Manager George, and Mark Britton as Mr. Price. Other principal roles will be played by David Lyons, Alice Quayle, Lois Mooney, Julia Bratty, Mandy Griffin, and Peter Shimon. The role of Lola is still to be cast at the point of recording. It's also nice to see that the Arts Ed boys, Rhys McGowan and Harrison Langham, who we met last year on the podcast for 42nd Street, will be back for another summer on the Isle of Man. Once again, director-choreographer duties will be carried out by Chris Cummings, and the musical director will be Kelvin Towes. Madford's Easter Festival of Plays kicks off at the Gaiety on Saturday the 8th of April and runs every night through to Friday the 14th of April. In a change to previous years, the One Act Festival and the Festival of Full-Length Plays have been combined, although will still run as two separate competitions. The programme for the week will alternate between a night of full-length plays and a night of two or more one-act plays, with the one-act plays showing on Saturday the 8th, Tuesday the 11th, Wednesday the 12th and Thursday 13th, with the full-length plays filling the gaps on Sunday the 9th, Monday the 10th and Friday the 14th. There will be an adjudication for each production each night following the performances, and the awards for each competition will be presented on the Friday night following the final performance. Tickets are £15 per performance for adults and £12 for under 16s and over 65s, or for £77 you can buy a season ticket and attend all the performances. A full list of the performances is available on the Villa Gaiety website, where you can also book tickets, and on the Madfer Facebook page and website. Now, we covered this on our social media posts, but on the 12th of February, at the 23rd Annual What's on Stage Awards, Joe Locke was fortunate enough to have won the Best Professional Debut Performance Award for his performance in The Trials at the Donmar Warehouse. Now, make sure you keep up to date with what's going on between episodes by following Manx Theatre Podcast on both Facebook and Instagram, and at Manx Theatre Pod on Twitter. Right, down to business. I'm joined in the studio today by leading lady Kate Cowley and her co-star Phil Bird from the Manx Operatic Society, ahead of their upcoming production of Annie Get Your Gun, which is playing at the Gaiety Theatre in just a few weeks' time. Kate and Phil, welcome to the Manx Theatre Podcast.
Hello.
Yeehaw, hello.
Oh, you're getting the spirit there straight away.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm in character the whole time.
Brilliant. So the show is Annie Get Your Gun. This is a slightly newer version of the show. So the show was originally done way back in like 1946. And there was a film in the 50s with Betty Hutton.
Yeah, and Howard
Keel. Stalwarts of Hollywood movies. Yeah. Do you know, originally that part was supposed to be for
Judy Garland.
It
was, and she actually filmed a couple of numbers. We had a viewing night, and on the, going back now, people won't know what this is, a DVD, in the special features, they had a couple of the scenes that Judy actually filmed, and it was very, very different to how Betty Hutton went on to play the role. It was.
She was terrible.
She was. You could tell she wasn't in a. She was not in a great place.
Not in a prime.
No, not at all. And it would have been a very, very different film, I think, if she had continued with that role and Betty Hutton hadn't taken it, because Betty Hutton really established what that role was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. Well, now this one then. This is the 1999. This is the Peter Stone version.
Yeah.
So it was rewritten for a Broadway revival in '99.
Yeah, with Bernadette Peters.
Yes. Wow. So there were some changes then to the show, just to bring it up to date a little bit more.
Yeah. So the main thing is that it's not set in the Wild West. It's set in the Big Top, so it's in a circus. That obviously Colonel Bill still is the ringmaster of kinds, and they've taken out a few numbers. They've added a few numbers in, so there'll be some numbers that not everybody knows.
Yeah.
But all the really famous ones are still there.
Yeah.
And it's got a twist on the ending. Slightly. It just brings it up to date, basically. It modernises
it's made it more suitable for modern times.
Yeah.
Would be a polite way of putting it.
I mean, there are quite a few of the older shows like that. Thinking actually, you probably couldn't do that now because you can't play that part, or you shouldn't be blacking up like that and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. But it is. I think now you'll know all the music, you'll know the storyline, but it just has a proper sort of modern twist to it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it feels like a modern show.
It's very much one of the classic American musicals of the 50s of that time. The Oklahoma and the South Pacific and the Carousel and Showboat. These sort of great American musicals. But unfortunately, it got a little bit left behind. I don't know why, because the music's fantastic. Because Irving Berlin wrote the music, and it's absolutely cracking, to be fair. But the story was, a little bit, I think, uncomfortable in the modern day.
Yes.
I'm trying to find a polite way of putting it.
It's probably the way it sort of treats the Native Americans, I guess.
Yes.
That
and also the battle of the sexes as well a bit.
Yeah.
So, but yes, predominantly the treatment of Native Americans.
Which is probably not the way the original script referred to them.
Well, no. So it's been brought into the modern age, which is great because it gives you an opportunity to sing some of these fantastic songs.
Yeah.
I think it works well now. It's set in Buffalo Bill's circus, so there's almost an element of The Greatest Showman about it.
Yes.
Which brings a new dimension to it, and it throws a different twist on it. And you can do some things with the staging of it that you couldn't do before. It was a very old-fashioned show from a staging point of view, in which there were a lot of scene changes, a lot of bringing in cloths, and 50 scene changes of dead silence while everyone rushed around sort of changing the set, which nobody wants anymore these days. But the beauty of putting it in a circus and it being dealt with by the whole cast is the whole cast moved the set that we've got, and that's very much part of the show as well. Mm-hmm. The fact that the cast are moving the set is because they're putting on almost like a production of Annie Get Your Gun in the big circus.
So they're building the ring and they're building the tent.
Yeah, it all gets put together as you go.
It's almost like a show in a show, isn't it? That sort of concept, because even with the introduction of it, because the show opens with "There's no business like show business," and that is where sort of the characters get established, but Buffalo Bill sort of introduces the idea of that they're telling the story of Annie and Frank.
Yeah.
And then we're sort of going back to the origins of that. It's a really clever way of bringing it into a modern sort of feeling.
So just give us a little bit of an overview of the story then, for anyone who doesn't really know the show. What's the rough story to it?
Well, it is essentially a love story.
It is, yes.
Between Annie and Frank. Frank is the greatest sharpshooter in the world. Annie is country bumpkin, has never been out of where she lives, and basically their worlds collide, and much to Frank's annoyance, Annie appears to best him. And so then it's just their sort of journey together, and then what won't they sort of make a relationship? Won't they be able to be together when they're constantly battling against each other? And then it's also a sort of Annie's journey from nothing and being very almost subservient to Frank, and then her finding her way and finding who she is, and being able to stand up for herself and say no, and then how that sort of works, then how Frank and Annie then work together with that change in Annie's personality.
And am I right in thinking he goes off to a rival to the West show?
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, yes and well, no, yes, I suppose
Yeah.
he does.
He has
yes.
a tantrum.
Well, yes, yes, he does. He throws his toys out of the pram, really, and he joins a rival show. Annie joins Buffalo Bill's show. Frank was already in Bill's show.
Yeah.
Annie joins Buffalo Bill's show, and Frank then goes off to the rival show with his partner at that time, his shooting assistant.
Yeah.
And Buffalo Bill goes off to the UK and Europe, touring around Europe, shooting at Queen Victoria and other dignitaries.
Why not?
And
As you do.
and then comes back and of course is completely broke. So then it's also a story of, you know, how are they going to continue when they've got no money?
Yeah. He was obviously siphoning his money off and putting it into building his own little town.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
This is something I discovered recently, because I've been doing my family tree for a couple of years now. I think we all did. It all started in lockdown. That's how it gets going. And I discovered with a little sort of notification I got the other week that it's some spurious relative. It's like a great aunt's brother-in-law left the Isle of Man as a stonemason in like 1911. So just before the First World War broke out, and he ended up in this little place in Wyoming called Cody. And I was looking behind it, and it's this little town that was founded by Buffalo Bill Cody himself. Mm-hmm. And he built a dam, and he helped build the dam, and then Buffalo Bill had bought, obviously using the money that he'd made off the shows, to build hotels and a dude ranch and all sorts of things. So obviously investing all his money into the town is why the show went bankrupt.
Yeah, definitely.
It's quite nice to be playing characters who actually existed.
Yeah.
I mean, you've
Yeah.
got something to hang your characterisation on to some extent. Okay, I mean, it might be just the fact that I've grown a stupid beard and a moustache for the show.
And, no, it's an impressive beard.
It's very
impressive.
distinguished,
Yeah.
Phil.
Well, I worry that I have a look of Colonel Sanders about me, especially so I'm going to try and avoid wearing a white jacket during show week.
And you might want to stay away from KFC.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I might just go in and say, hello, look, here I am. Free KFC, please. No, as I was saying, it's quite nice to play real-life people.
Yeah.
You don't always get that opportunity.
No.
Yes, sometimes you do. There are some musicals that are based on real people, but this one actually is quite nice from that point of view.
And
Yeah,
you can do a bit of research about the real
Yeah.
person then as well. You're
Yeah.
not just relying on someone else's performance of it.
That's it. It's like
Well-
I've done a fair bit of research on. I'm annoying everybody in the cast because I keep posting stuff. But I've done quite a lot of research, and me and Annie share a birthday.
Yes.
We're both born on the 13th of August. We both are 5 foot-ish, so we're both short. But once I sort of got into it, the show itself reflects so many parts of Annie's real life
Yeah.
that actually took place. So Annie and Frank really did meet at a shooting match.
Yes.
Annie really did beat him. They went on and got married. They were married for over 50 years.
Wow.
And they literally, I think one of them passed away, and it was literally a few weeks later that the other
Yeah.
one passed away.
Yeah.
And they were together that whole time.
Yeah.
She really was adopted by Chief Sitting Bull.
Right.
She really did travel with
Yeah.
Colonel
Yeah.
Bill's troop. It's so much fact
Yeah.
in the show itself. It's so interesting to look into it all.
Yeah, Annie died first.
That was it.
And
yeah.
then Frank stopped eating and effectively starved himself to death.
Oh, wow.
And died very shortly
Yeah.
afterwards.
Wow.
Whether you can say that's, we died of a broken heart or not, I don't know. Maybe he'd just gone slightly bonkers, I'm not quite sure. But that's apparently the story is that he stopped eating as soon as she died.
Yeah. So
I'd
they'd
like to
had
think
this
I'd do
really.
that to my wife, but I'm not actually sure that would be true. Bless you, sorry, darling.
It's sweet though that they had that such a long relationship,
Oh, yes, I
and they
think
were
that-
so
I
dedicated
think
to each other
they were
in real
married,
life.
I think, for 50 years or
Yeah,
something. I mean, we're
yeah.
not talking like, a couple of years. I mean, this is a long marriage.
Yeah.
Because Annie was, in reality, I think, only something like 15 when they
Yeah.
first met.
Yeah.
So he I think, was a bit older
Yeah.
and had previously been married and had children. But they fell in love with each other, and it is really a love story, and
Yeah.
it's great to. I mean, okay, it's not what you see every day in the
Yeah.
theatre, because it's a musical from a different age.
Yes.
And it's nice to do that. I think sometimes in the theatre we get a bit hung up on, we've got to be doing the island premiere of something. We've got to be the first to do this marvellous new show. And we forget about some of the old real classics.
Yeah.
And ticket sales have indicated that people still want to see them.
Yes. That's good.
Which is good, because it gets an opportunity for us to do some shows that, have been around a while but don't get visited very often.
Yeah. And it's reintroducing those shows to the next generation.
Yeah.
And people will come, and younger people will come, and they'll hear the music and they'll go, I know that song.
Yes.
And now I
That's
know
where it
where
comes
it's
from.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
There are some earworm songs in it. I mean, I defy anyone to be going out of the theatre without humming something from the show.
Yeah.
Because it's that, whether you want to or not, I'm afraid, it's those sort of songs.
Anything you can do, I can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I never realised that was this from the show.
Well,
I
there
didn't
you go.
either. I didn't until we got the script. And oh my gosh, it's been so much fun doing that song.
Rather you than me.
When you're saying, you'll hear music and you'll know it from somewhere, but you wouldn't realise where it was. Now,
Yeah.
we probably all listened to Elaine Page on Sunday on Radio 2, and it wasn't until, I think it was 2014, I did Sunset Boulevard, and we were sat in rehearsals one day, and we got to the interval, and suddenly this big sort of fanfare comes in, which as the curtain comes in on Act 1, and that's the fanfare that ends Elaine Page on Sunday. I'm like, that's where it's from!
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Me and David always listen to the Elaine Page show, and then we play the game of, when she puts a song on, you have to guess the musical. And if it's like a really modern sounding one with loads of girls singing, I'm like, it has to be Six. Every time. I don't know any of the music from the show, but I'm like, it has to be that one. That's the one.
It's confusing when they throw in something from Anne Juliet and you go, why is she playing Britney Spears?
Yeah.
So, the creative side of things, we've got Jeremy Tustin back as director. Now, Jeremy did both versions of Les Mis with the DCU and with Manx Operatic Society, and he also directed Ghost, which sadly never made it to stage because of our wonderful friend Mr. COVID-19. It has been a rough couple of years for Manx Ops. They were days away from getting into the theatre on Ghost when that was cancelled and everything was closed down, and then they struggled the following year with some musical shows, and then last year with Sweeney Todd, the whole show was pushed back an entire week as 80% of the cast got COVID during Tech Week, which was fun. I somehow managed to avoid it. I don't know how I avoided it, but I somehow managed to avoid it. I was the only principal who didn't get COVID in that week. But no, this year, all well. Touch wood, all round.
Yes.
That doesn't seem to be an issue that's hanging around, so we're in a good position. So, how's it been working with Jeremy on this show?
He's lovely. I've not worked with Jeremy before, but he's been great. He gives you a lot of direction, but at the same time, you can put your own
There's a lot of freedom to play with it.
Yeah. You can totally go with your own sort of spin and do some things if you feel like, I might do this, I might do that. He's totally open to workshopping things, which is really, really nice. And it's just being able to put your own feel to your character.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to be able to do that, because if you're playing the role, if you're just getting told it has to be like this, you can't really get into that character properly. So having that little bit of
sounds
freedom.
like he's kind of like that happy middle ground, because sometimes you'll get directors that will give you every sort of footstep, nod, turn of the head and angle of the head, and you get directors that just go, let's go with this. You walk on over there, let's go.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit of direction.
Well, see, I quite like when I've worked with Scott St. Martin before, he will say, you start here and you end up over there, and I don't really care how you get there, but just get your character there.
Yeah.
I really like that. I like being able to think about who I am, and that's great. But it's not for everybody. So and because we're on a very shorter rehearsal schedule for this show, because we started later, it's been nice to have the guidance and the freedom and just sort of bring it all together. So it's been great working with Jeremy.
Yeah, I've not worked with him before, but you're right. He tells you what he wants in a way that makes it feel like you'd thought that up yourself.
Good.
If that makes any sense.
No, yeah.
He gently directs rather than just shouts at you.
Just pushes you in the right direction.
Yeah, it's odd. I found myself doing things that I didn't expect to be doing with it when I first read through the script and looked at the character. And I think that's because Jeremy's sort of gently nudged you in that direction without actually saying, I want you to do it this way.
It makes it feel I hate the word, but it makes it feel organic.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And also we've got a new MD as well, isn't there? I think
Yes.
he's no stranger to the music scene on the Isle of Man, but Chris Sullivan is in as MD for the first time.
Yeah, he is the most enthusiastic person ever.
Yeah,
he is brilliant.
I think he is stock staring bonkers, to be perfectly honest.
He would say that
I
about
love
himself.
him to bits. He is such a clever man musically. He understands music inside out, and he's got a good way of teaching it as well. He's done tracks for us, which to help us learn music, to help us learn the parts.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, musically it can be a little odd in as much as the arrangements are new, and it can be a little discordant until it's all put together. So trying to sing your own part can sometimes be a bit of a challenge because it sounds really weird.
Sounds
and
wrong.
You think, I'm singing this wrong,
Yeah.
but you're not. But he's been really, really good from that point of view, and I've loved working with him.
Yeah, I have.
And I think we're very fortunate in as much as we've got both him and Jeremy for our next show as well.
Right.
So that will be good.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
no, Chris has been a revelation.
Yeah, he has. He's been fantastic. Yeah.
So next year that's Oliver, isn't it?
It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It's been an interesting one. Lots of kids as well. Always fun.
Yes, we have got kids in this one.
Yes.
So
Yes, so let's just have a look at the cast, actually, because, Kate, you're playing Annie Oakley,
Yep.
and Phil, you're Buffalo Bill Cody himself.
yes.
Then, as Kate's love interest, Frank Butler, we've got Daniel Sebastian Gray. So he's fairly new to the scene, isn't he?
He's professionally trained.
Oh,
so
right.
yeah.
Oh, actually, no, he was...
he was in Elegies.
Yes,
Yes.
and he was also in the Panto, not last year before, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
and
was the
he's
villain,
in
yes.
the Railway Children coming up as well.
Oh.
He's very busy.
Wow.
But yeah, no, he's been great. He's been such a good support.
I mean, he has, yeah.
Yeah.
He has.
He really has. He's been so helpful because my having not had a proper lead role like this before, and also not knowing how much I was actually going to be on stage and how much I have to sing, I have been panicking like crazy. But he's been so lovely, like just helping me. But like if I think, I don't know if I've said that line in the right way or something, he'll give me ideas, and he's been really, really good to sort of try and boost my confidence, and other members of the cast as well. He's been
And
so
you've
good.
had a few years away as well, haven't you?
Yeah, 6 years
yeah.
and another baby. So yeah, it's been a challenge to get back into it.
You've had a few years away as well, Phil, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The last show I did was chess with the Manx Operatic Society, so that was, it's 2018, 17, 18, I can't
think
remember.
that might have been 18.
Someone
I
around
think
there.
that was 2001.
No, that was the first time.
Oh,
No, the
so you were the
second
second
I was
one.
in the
all right.
second time.
All right,
I
okay,
did it
okay.
again.
Yes.
It was after Legally Blonde, wasn't it? The year
Yeah,
after. Yes, it was
quite possibly.
2018.
Yes.
So it's been, this will be 5 years. Yeah, not intentionally, just hasn't really happened. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I went to see Sweeney Todd last year and got accosted in the auditorium.
As you do.
who were misses. And they said, "Oh, look, this is the show. Come down to do the next show." And I thought, "Oh, yeah, well, I'm getting a bit old. I can't be bothered." And then I thought, "Oh, hell, why not? I'll go down and see."
I mean, at the time, that was going to be curtains,
That's
wasn't it?
right. It was going to be curtains. And I saw some curtains on the
YouTube.
Well, yeah, I didn't know whether that was an acceptable thing to say on a commercial station.
On the internet.
Right. Yes, on the internet I saw a version of it, and the music was fab. And I thought, this is good. Yeah, I'll do that. There's a part I could do, he says modestly. So I went down and did that. And then that sort of fell apart. And they said, "Oh, Annie, get your gun." And I thought, "Oh, look, Bill. There's a part of a character called Bill. I'm good at Bills. This is the third character I've played called Bill." So I thought, I've got to do this. I played Wild Bill Hickok in Calamity Jane, and now I'm playing Buffalo Bill in this. So it's almost like completes the set with Bill Sykes from Oliver. The first time I've done that as well. So I thought, well, yeah, I better try that. So, and I was the right age, of course, and way too old for anything else. So. So I stuck with it and came back and did it, and I haven't regretted it at all. I've loved every minute of it.
Brilliant. Looking else around the cast, then we've got a long-time Manx Operatic member, Tracy McCann, then playing Dolly Tate.
Yeah.
And we've got Dr. John Snelling as Chief Sitting Bull.
We have.
So is he is that the rival Wild West show?
No, that's it's Pawnee Bill's Wild West show. Chief Sitting Bull, he comes to watch our show
Yes.
and is so enamoured by Annie, he breaks his rules and invests in show business, and
Right.
so he becomes part of the
becomes
show.
part of Buffalo Bill's show.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo Bill's show was not quite a rodeo, but he did sort of reenactments. So they reenacted the Battle of the Little Bighorn, for example, with horses and Indians, and as part of his show. That's
Yeah.
not in this show, but
No.
just by the way, there are no horses in the in our show. Not that I know of. I mean, who knows? I'm maybe coming on bareback on a horse. I'm not quite sure yet.
It's bad enough trying to get a donkey for Jesus Christ Superstar. Let's not talk about that.
So guarantee there are no horses. I'm afraid. But no, so he becomes part of the show. Pawnee Bill is the other. Oh, another Bill I could play that as
Yes.
Yeah.
well. Pawnee Bill is the rival show owner.
And that's Mike Estella.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's his first time in a lead role, isn't
It
it?
is, yes.
Yeah.
Bless him, he's doing a great job.
He is.
Yes, he was great fun on Sweeney Todd last year. So I'm guessing this is the other sort of young romantic coupling. Is it Winnie Tate and Tommy Keeler?
Yes.
Yes.
Which is Summer Patrick and Magnus Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a knife-throwing act.
Right, okay.
So they're the the young romantic couple, which is, I think there was one of the songs in the original film. I don't know, I can't remember. They've certainly got more to do in this version than the original. So
Yeah.
they're a sort of bit of light relief, I think. Give actually you a chance to get off stage and
Yeah.
get changed, probably.
See, I think it's one of the only. I think there's only 3 numbers I'm not in, and 2 of those numbers are theirs. So I'm very, very grateful.
It was like that in Jekyll and Hyde, because I was the understudy for Jekyll and Hyde, and literally there were like 3 numbers in the entire show that Jekyll or Hyde are not in.
Yeah.
And one of those, he's lying on the floor behind the bed ready to stab.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm getting a rest, but not really.
Yeah.
Who else we got there? Oh yeah, I mean Magnus. I met Magnus last year on Sweeney Todd, and I could tell he'd been bitten hard by the bug last year.
Oh,
so
yes.
it's
Yeah.
nice to see that he's got a role this year. So that's
Yes.
good. And then sort of rounding off the lead roles, then we've got Neil King as Charlie Davenport and Mike Devereaux as Foster Wilson.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's a good strong cast,
It
isn't it?
is,
And
yeah.
we've really bonded really well.
We have. Yeah.
Because obviously it's been a very intense rehearsal
Been a
schedule
short-
and
short
blocking
rehearsal schedule, yeah.
period,
Managed to
but
cram it in quite a short time.
yeah, but it's been really good. We've all worked. I think we're all working together so well.
Yeah.
Like Tracy as Dolly is just
Oh, she's an absolute scream.
hilarious. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Like
she's the comic relief.
She really
she and
is.
Charlie are the comic relief.
Yeah, they are brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the more that we've sort of got through the rehearsal period, the more confident that Tracy's got with her with the comedy side of it. And oh my gosh, like the other night the cast were like in stitches, and I was like, they've seen this scene over and over and over again, but they just couldn't stop laughing because they were just hilarious. It was brilliant to watch.
It's great to see Tracy in the lead role, because she's been there for a long time, and she's always been has sort of like lead dancing roles and things like that, but it's not very often that she actually gets up and has a proper role herself.
Yeah, I think the last time that I was with Tracy was Little Shop of Horrors when she was Audrey.
Yeah.
And even in this, she keeps saying things, and I'm like, oh, it's just like Audrey, because she keeps there's a scene,
right?
there's like there's a bit, and she goes glitter, and I'm like, oh, it's great.
So looking at the ensemble, then, I mean, there's quite a few there in the ensemble, and there's a real mix of old school, long time Manx Operatic members, but there's also look down here. There's quite a few young members as well. So
It's a real mix.
It
It really
It
is. It's been lovely actually, because it's quite nice seeing the ones that have a lot more experience helping the lesser
Yes, you're
experienced
right,
cast
yeah.
members and bringing them up through, and everybody's sort of helping each other out, which is quite nice.
We've been able in this show to give some of the younger ones a bit more prominence than perhaps they might have had in a different show. And that's got to be great for the future for any society, for their confidence and going forward. I mean, Magnus, for example, I know he's got a part, but he's got a great career ahead of him if he wants to progress it. He's going to be he's talented now, but he could be he's a leading man of the future, absolutely, no doubt about it.
Summer
and
as
Summer
well.
is the same.
Yeah.
Summer's incredible.
We're giving some people almost their first opportunity, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
We'll be able to look back in a few years and say, "Oh, look, I was on stage."
Yeah,
like we do with
exactly.
Sam Box. Oh,
Yes.
yes, I was assistant director when she did this.
Exactly.
I taught Sam Box the routine to join the society when she did return back to the 80s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that your claim to fame?
Yeah.
That's I was assistant director on that.
Oh, I
Or
see.
dialogue director or whatever fancy name you want to call it.
Actually, my claim to fame was that I was her last amateur leading male
Oh.
in Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
That's my real claim to fame. You've also got a small group of kids as well, isn't
Yeah.
there? There's a junior ensemble.
There is. They all play my little brother and sisters.
And one of them is your daughter.
One of them is my daughter. I'm
Oh.
so proud. She's the only reason that I'm in the show. So basically, when they said they were doing Annie Get Your Gun and they needed kids, Aylin did Annie with Centre Stage previously, and she'd just finished. I think she'd just finished Moana. Or Moana was on, maybe at the time. And I said, do you want to go down to Manx Ops? And Mummy and Daddy have both worked with them before. Do you want... it's where we met. So she said, oh, yeah, okay. We got down there and she was just like, oh, I don't want to audition if you don't audition. I said, well, I'm not going to do the show. So she was like, oh, you please audition. So I said, right, okay, I'll audition. And yeah, that's...
Walked away with a lead.
Well, yeah. But the only reason that I'm there was to be with her. So the thought of us being on stage together is, and I get to cuddle her at one point, and she has she sings to me at one point.
Oh.
So I was just like, oh my God, that first show, if I don't know, I'm going to have to hold it together. So if you see Annie crying, it's not in the show.
It's probably,
It is entirely scripted.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, totally. I'm a professional. I cannot wait to be on stage with her, and then with Oliver next year. All of them, even George, and he's only 5.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to be in the show. So, we might end up with all 3 of the Cowley kids in next year's show as well.
Excellent. Actually, there are a few Manx Ops juniors here, aren't there?
Yes, there are. Yeah.
Because there's Ailish Kilgallen. So is it David Kilgallen's daughter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the Kilgallens have been involved. All of the Kilgallen kids have been involved at some point.
Yeah.
And we've got Morgan Smith as well. His mum Lindsay's in the cast.
Yes.
Oh, and Alexis Wilson as well. So that's Chrissy Sutcliffe's daughter. So
Yeah.
Chrissy's done a few shows with Manx Ops as well.
And Alexa Ash, that's Joey Wilde's daughter
Oh,
as
gosh,
well.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's lots of them.
There
The
are,
next
yes.
generation coming
And
through.
one of the girls is just one young singer of
Singer
Man.
Yeah.
Anna.
Yes, Anna Tamarova.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's just one young singer
Junior
of Man.
young singer
Yeah.
of Man. Or yes.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
Bless her. So
Brilliant. Well, the future's bright.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
You're listening to the Manx Theatre Podcast with Neil Callin.
So how did the pair of you both get started?
ooh, blimey! Back in the dark ages, when I was at school, my teacher was, I think I was about 6.
Yeah.
So my teacher was doing an amateur version of The Mikado,
Uh-huh.
and she was playing the lead. And I went home and said to my parents, "Oh, I want to go and see my teacher in this show." So they took me along, and I got hooked from that point. I didn't get on stage with my local society until I was 11, and then I was in every show for 20, 30 years almost now, and
Wow.
48 years later from that first day, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So it the trouble with it is it grabs hold of you and it doesn't let go.
Yeah.
And you can't stop doing it somehow. You can take some years off,
Yeah.
but you go back to it because
Yeah.
it's just got you somehow.
Yeah.
So 1975 was the first year I went on stage.
Wow. What would your first sort of proper name role be?
Oh,
And we're not talking
well-
about Joseph in the Nativity.
well, no, I did lots of little insignificant sort of back row of the chorus, one line, sort of just about had a name characters.
Yeah.
Probably my first principal role was as the dresser in Kiss Me Kate, who sings Too Darn Hot.
Right.
And the society I was in, we did that in the January. And then I moved away to a different part of the UK and joined another society who were doing Kiss Me Kate, and didn't have anyone to play that part.
Yeah.
And I played it again in their version
Just so
in
happens
the
that I know
August.
this role.
Just so happens I've just
touring-
played it.
just touring
so
the
I played
UK
it in
as that
2
part.
shows. Yeah, I did it in Surrey, then I did it in Gloucester.
Phil Bird, the one-man tour.
So that was probably it, really. Then, and the society I was in Gloucester was a great society. It owned its own theatre.
Wow.
So we were putting on sort of 4 or 5 shows a year, 3 plays, a pantomime, 2 musicals,
Wow.
as well as professional companies coming in, and comedians and wrestling and all kinds of things. So I spent my formative years pretty much working in a theatre, an amateur version of working in a theatre, doing a show every, few weeks almost. It
Yeah.
felt like.
I mean, when you're young and you've got no other ties, it's so easy to do that.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got that set up, there's a lot. I've done it myself. I look at the list of shows that I've done, and it's quite a big list. But actually, there's a lot of them that are condensed into about 6 or 7 years, where I've literally done panto, op show, play, summer show, play, panto. It's very easy to get into that. Like, well, what do I do now? The show's finished. What do I do now? Oh, rehearsals on Monday. Oh, let's go join that show in. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Pretty much every night of the week I was down the theatre, be it rehearsing, doing, helping backstage for whoever was in, doing whatever show.
Yeah.
Running the kids group, whatever. I don't think that. I think occasionally got a Sunday off, and that was about it.
Yeah.
They had a bar as well, so you ended up helping behind the bar too.
Yeah.
But I did that for 5 years, and it was fabulous. I loved it.
Yeah, there's a place in Barnsley called the Lamproom Theatre. It's a lovely little theatre. I was there about 5 years ago with the play from the Service Players. We won the One Act Festival, and we got to take it away to the UK British All Winners Final and perform there. And it was a lovely little theatre, literally about 200 seats at most. But they had a bar to the side, and they owned the site. But they knew that the bar was open before the show, it was during the show, and open for about 3 hours after the show.
Wow.
Because they knew that they made a lot of money on that bar.
Too
And
right.
the longer that bar was open, the more that the theatre could stay open.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a 750-seater theatre as
Oh, wow.
well. I mean, it was
So, similar size to the Gaiety Theatre.
Yeah, absolutely, it was a fabulous theatre. I don't think it's there anymore now. I think they ended up having to sell it, and I think it became a bingo hall, and
A cinema.
not even sure what it is now. No,
Car park.
Probably been knocked down, yeah, which is a great shame because it was a lovely, lovely theatre.
Yeah. What about you, Kate? How did you get started?
So I never did anything really in my youth. I think I was in the Joseph Kids Chorus, with David Artis actually and Gary Chattel,
Yeah.
1995, 96, and apart from that was just because schools were
Yeah.
asked, so I ended up doing that. I didn't do anything until I graduated from university in 2007. Came home for what was meant to be 6 months to get some money behind me before
20 years later, I'm still here.
Exactly. So yeah, I was going to do my 6 months here, and then I was going to move to London, and I was going to become a researcher for a media company. That was my plan. I went to the theatre with Mr. Neil James King and some friends to watch Back to the 80s.
Oh, what a great show! Who
It
was
was
in
a
that?
fantastic-
Were you in
I
that,
know.
Neil?
I was in that
Yes,
show. Yes, were
I
you in
was
that
in
show?
that. I
Phil?
was, funnily enough. Yes.
It was a fabulous show, guys. And
Corey
we went to the pub afterwards, and Neil and my other friend Kieran said to me, "Why aren't you doing this?" Because they knew I loved to sing karaoke and stuff. They were like, "Look, you're home
Yeah.
for a few months. Why don't you go and do a show? Fill your time." So I was like, all right, okay. So I made Neil come down to the ops. Oh, no, it was Johnny B.
Oh, right.
I worked with Johnny B at the time, and Neil knew him as well. So they
Well, they
said,
were in
come
bands together.
Yeah, they were in
Yeah.
bands together. So they sort of got in touch, and they said, right, this is where you have to go. So we came down to the ops hall. I had to audition to join the ops, obviously, so I sang a song, and there was some bloke there called Nelly who had to teach me a dance routine to audition for the show, which I did, and I got you would call it the leading lady, I guess,
yeah.
opposite my now husband, David Cowley. So then, yeah, that was it.
Was that Disco Inferno?
Disco Inferno, yeah.
Gosh, that was a bit of a whirlwind year for you then, wasn't it?
It was, because, yeah, so me and David sort of started seeing each other quietly because Mr. Cumberledge was not happy about us being in a relationship because he thought it might affect the show.
Yeah.
And then that was it, basically. David proposed at the end of that on stage, at the end of that production. We got engaged. I obviously never moved to London. 15 years later, 3 kids. That's it, basically.
London is but a distant dream.
Yeah.
So you're saying is Neil King's got a lot to answer for.
Yes,
I keep saying this to him. I was like, it's all your fault. And I've been asking Neil to get into shows since then.
It took him about 10 years, isn't it?
I have been begging him, literally all the time, come on, you just have to join. Just come and join the society. Finally, when he decided to do it, I was in retirement, so then I couldn't do any shows with him. But obviously now, it's serendipitous that we've ended up finally in a show together.
Yeah, brilliant. What would be the favourite role that you've played over the years?
That's hard. Do you know what? It would probably be one of the Ronettes in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
I have loved Little Shop of Horrors since I was young. My dad introduced me to it. The music is amazing. The film is amazing. The ensemble cast in the film is amazing. It's just always been one of my favourites. When that came up, I was dying to be one of the Ronettes, and I was so happy when I got Crystal. And I was just like, yes. Being able to sing all those songs and being able to just belt. There's so few shows where you can belt and just give it a bit of pop sound to it and just play with it and, really give it a bit of Aretha. I was just like, yes, it was, I'd do that. I would do that show again in a heartbeat. It was amazing.
Phil, how about you?
My favourite role's a bit of a peculiar one. I was in a show just actually before I moved to the island in '93 in the UK called Charlie Girl, which is a very British 60s comedy musical.
Yeah.
Starring in the West End originally, Joe Brown.
Yeah.
And then when he went out and left the company, Jerry Marsden from Jerry and the Pacemakers played the lead role. I played the lead role in that, a character called Joe Studholme. And it's an odd musical. It's of its time.
Yeah.
But I felt so comfortable in the role.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are roles you play where you don't actually have to act.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is me. I'm playing myself here.
Yeah.
So he was a handyman at a country house. He was in love with the youngest daughter of the woman who owned the house. They were short of money. He wins the football pools.
Oh, right.
But doesn't want to tell anyone because he thinks that the daughter will get with him just because he's got money.
Yeah.
And it was just an easygoing, gentle, laughter-filled show, which is extremely unpopular for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
The music's great. I loved it, and I had a whale of a time, and I felt very comfortable in the role. So that would be my favourite role, I think. Something slightly unusual.
Marvellous. Now, there's one thing, and I know that Kate probably has got a lot of stories for this one, and probably the majority of them actually involve her husband, but quite often things go slightly wrong on stage, or things have been changed, maybe, probably not with the director's consent, but I mean, what are the sort of the funniest things or the strangest thing that's gone wrong on stage that you've somehow managed to sort of get round and cover a little bit, maybe?
I'm probably going to be telling David's stories because I don't get involved in that. I need to know exactly what's happening at all times because I'm a control freak. But when we did Hot Mikado
The second time round, David was very poorly. Yes.
Very, very poorly. And we obviously didn't have understudies. So he was literally running off stage, vomiting in the wings, coming back on. And there's a scene where he had to get changed on stage with shields, like, what are they called?
Just like a screen, wasn't it?
Screens, yeah. So there was screens surrounding him, and he was literally having to vomit into his hat and get changed, and then go back round and play. Oh, and in Hot Mikado, he had to play a trumpet. He had to play a trumpet, and he put something in the trumpet he shouldn't have put in the trumpet. And yeah.
And it got stuck, didn't it?
It got stuck, and it was shaking.
And whilst trying to get it out, he was knocking it, he was banging it, he was bashing it. He tried to blow it out at one point, but it was wedged so hard that he nearly passed out from trying to blow it out.
We had to take it.
You had to get sent away,
we had to send it away to get it fixed. See, it's probably that show that had all the stories.
Yes.
But for me, it's one of my first shows, and Phil was in this show as well. This was Hello Dolly, the first time round, and it was right near the start. I was Barnaby.
Yeah.
Yes, so Matthew James was Cornelius Hackle and I was Barnaby Tucker. And we'd just come up through the grave trap, which was our trapdoor to our basement room.
Of course.
And we're just going into the start of Put On Your Sunday Clothes. And Matt's singing away. And I suddenly realised that Matt has forgotten the words and has gone into full-on pub singer version. And I'm looking at him going, I don't know what the words are. There's no way I can help you out of this. And then just suddenly girls and white with a person. I just suddenly launched back and thought, oh my lord. So afterwards going, did you see him go wrong? No, I didn't realise he went wrong. Yeah, you did.
No. I once had to carry a chicken on stage, a live chicken.
Oh, right.
That was quite interesting. That was in... A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum.
So not out of place then.
Well, no, it probably wasn't. So there was a man in the wings holding the chicken.
Yeah.
And I had to go off, get the chicken, and come on stage. And of course, it was flapping and squawking. And I mean, to this day, I have no idea why I needed a chicken. But, it was just the director said, "Oh, we're going to have a chicken."
Give us to Phil, it'll be funny.
It'll be funny. Phil. And I was wearing like this white sheet because it's obviously Roman. So there was the costumes were minimal to say the least. So I had this white sheet on and I was carrying a chicken. And for some bizarre reason, I don't think anything went wrong particularly with it, but it just seemed a very peculiar thing to be doing. So that's certainly a weird thing I've had to do on stage.
Note to self: speak to Jeremy, get Phil a chicken.
It'd be perfect in a Wild West show.
Well, yes, it could
I'm
be,
shooting birds the
Well,
whole
yeah,
time.
I
so.
think that there's mention of a poodle a lot. So,
Yes, yeah.
We could have a poodle in it.
They do talk about
We
the
do talk
poodle
about
a lot.
a poodle a lot. Yeah, there's a poodle gets mentioned. I don't know who's playing the poodle.
I don't know.
We'll have to have a look in the cast list. And it could be a part for you, Neil.
Oh, marvellous. I think I'm free that week. So thinking then about costumes, we've done shows over the years that probably had varying budgets as far as costumes are concerned. What are possibly the best and or worst costumes that you've ever had to wear?
I never complain about costumes.
No.
You could put me in a bin bag and I wouldn't really care.
Yeah.
Only because I just think if it's the director's vision or if that's what they want you to wear, I just go with it.
Well,
It doesn't
being
bother me.
wardrobe mistress must be a dog of a job anyway.
yeah.
No, so I'm just grateful to have a costume at some
Exactly.
stage. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
But for me, I was playing Bill Sykes. So back to playing different Bills. I was playing Bill Sykes, and I had a big black overcoat.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is comfortable. This is me. And I looked inside, and it had the name Rex Harrison written inside it. And I thought, oh, Rex Harrison, Rex Harrison, My Fair Lady, the original Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah.
Rex Harrison's worn this coat. This is me, yeah. Oh, look, I'm important. I've got Rex Harrison's coat on. So that's my best costume, just because I thought I was as good as Rex Harrison.
That's
I probably
amazing.
sing as well as him as well. So
Yeah, I had a shirt in Sunset Boulevard, which was one of the accountants from the producers, so from the West End. So this shirt's been on the West End. I haven't, the shirt has.
Yeah.
cool.
Oh no, this is a new one actually. So this is one that I've only asked once before with Peter Shimon on the last one, and of the last sort of 10-15 years, there's been quite a lot of big new shows that have come out with some really great parts and some great lead roles in there. But obviously, some of us are knocking on a little bit now, and we're not there for the youthful leads anymore. We're into the mum and dad roles. Is there a new show, or maybe not even necessarily a new show, but a show that you've not had the opportunity to do that has a role that you would love to play, but you just can't anymore because you're not 22 anymore?
Yeah, there is, but it hasn't actually been written yet, if this makes any sense. I know the role I want to play,
Yeah.
but no one's written the musical yet.
All right.
Bear with me on this. There's a current phase at the moment for making old films into musicals.
Uh-huh.
Ghost and the producers, Young Frankenstein, Dirty Dancing, Ghost. All these sort of shows are being made into films,
Yeah.
which is great. Well, I've come up with a new genre,
All right.
which we need to start making musicals of, and that is the Great British Sitcom. Now, I know that there's Only Fools and Horses already.
Yeah.
Paul Whitehouse has done, which is doing great in the West End, but there's real scope for me. Imagine Dad's Army, the musical.
Oh,
fantastic. What characters? That would
Yeah.
be a hoot. Well, I want to do, wait for it, everybody, Allo Allo, the musical. and the part for me...
René Artois.
No,
No?
the part for me is Officer Crabtree. Good morning.
Do you know, The Service Players did a production of Hello Hello about 5 or 6 years ago, and on that evening, whilst watching it, the coin very loudly dropped into place, and I realised the whole reason why Crabtree is speaking this really ridiculous English is because he's English.
Pretending
But everyone else
to be French.
But everyone else is speaking French as far as we're concerned, but we're hearing them in English, so we're hearing their perfect French as perfect English, and he's coming in, good morning, I was sitting by the door.
That's the one. Classic. Well, he's really undercover as well. He's an undercover Englishman masquerading as a French policeman.
And I'm sat there in the stalls going, why is it taking me 30 years to realise it?
But you see, I think
I know,
I
exactly.
think Hello the musical will be an absolute scream, and I'm just dying. So if there are any lyricists or composers out there, get to it. This is a master stroke for me.
It's a project for David Holland.
I've got to play Officer Crabtree, I'm afraid. Yes. That's the only condition. It's my idea, so... I don't know about you, but that's it for me. I'll be made then. I shall retire if I can play Officer Crabtree.
Okay, how about you?
I don't know. I don't know very many modern musicals. I know that's terrible, isn't it? Do you know what? I think when I was younger, I probably would have loved to have played Matilda because the show is epic, and I was lucky enough to go and see it on the West End when it opened. So that would have been, I think, growing up, I would have loved to have played that. However, I am way too old for that, so I'll just have to let Aileen do it at some point in the future.
Just live it through her.
For one generation, it was Annie. And now you're right. It's Matilda's that got to be the part for young girls. That'd be fab, wouldn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
I could do that as a sex change. I mean, there's got to be a. I don't see why these days you can't, just change all the genders of all the characters in a show and do it in reverse.
They are doing that with a lot of things. I mean, a couple of years ago they had Company, and they changed Bobby from a man to a woman. So.
Oh, okay.
A lot of parts these days in some of the musicals are now written freely enough to be interpreted in whichever gender you want. So perhaps we should do that.
Yeah.
Although Officer Crabtree is definitely a man.
Of course. Yeah. And the role is for you, Phil.
Thank you.
So as we're talking with sex changes then, if you could play any role of the opposite gender, what would it be?
Ooh, blimey.
I think I would go for... Everyone's talking about Jamie. I'd be Jamie Moon. Yeah. Because that is the best. It's such a good show, and it's just such a fantastic role. Not just as in you've got that sort of campy show version, but just the story and the characterization. It's funny, it's brilliant,
and it's sassy
and emotional. And when I saw it on the screenings over here, I think you was. I was. Yeah, you laugh and cry. Yeah. Like it's such a fantastic show. So I would go for that. Yeah,
especially when it comes to He's My Boy.
Oh, don't. Honestly, I was a mess sat there.
So was Emma, because we've got a blonde little boy.
Yeah, I was just sat there just thinking about like William and George. Like, oh my god.
Well, you see, I'm a great Sondheim fan, so for me, it will be any of the great female roles in Sondheim. Into the Woods is one of my favourites, and there are loads of female characters in that would be a screen to play.
The Witch.
Red Riding Hood, The Witch, Cinderella, The Baker's Wife. Yeah. Fantastic parts for women. I have done the show. Obviously, I wasn't playing a female role, but and it was a great show. Very, very difficult musically to sing.
Oh yeah. Well, sometimes
I spent the whole show counting myself in.
Yeah.
And you came in at 13 and at 17, and it was just absolutely when you weren't. It really felt wrong to do, but
bizarre timings as well.
Great show. I loved doing the show.
Yeah.
That was the last show I did before I moved to the island. So that was. Yes, that long ago, 1994, everybody.
Yes, because the first time that we met would be 99 for Hot Mikado, the first time around.
That's right, yeah. Well, I came over in 94. I was offered a job. Well, I wasn't offered a job. I was made redundant in the UK, and I was doing Into the Woods in December, and we had the Monday off.
Yeah.
We started on the Saturday, and then Saturday, Sunday, we had Monday off, and then we were doing the rest of the week. And on the Monday, I flew over here for a job interview.
That's a brave thing to do.
And flew back again on the same day. and got the job anyway, and then moved over later in the January of '94. So that was Christmas '93. I was doing that. So that was my last show, and I went down to the Ops within a week of coming over here.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, we're doing 7 Brides for 7 Brothers." I thought, "Oh, great!" So they said, "Can you audition to be in the society tonight?" This is a Thursday, so I said, "Yeah, all right." So I auditioned and got in there, and then auditions for principals were on the Sunday, and got in, and that was 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, '94.
What part did you play in that?
I don't know, one of the brothers. I can't remember what his name was.
Was it Bill?
No, it wasn't Bill. It wasn't Bill, and it wasn't Officer Crabtree. I think it was Caleb. I cannot honestly swear to that. I can't remember the name.
There is 7 of them.
There are 7. Yeah, there are 7 for God's sake.
Frank and Gideon and Damien,
Adam,
Benjamin,
Brian,
Daniel, Ephraim.
Humphrey. There's no Ephraim.
Isn't it Ephraim?
No.
Isn't it Daniel and Ephraim? Aren't they the twins?
No, it can't be Ephraim. Surely not.
I've no clue.
No.
Not a clue.
I can't remember. E. They did have alphabetical names. So E. Maybe it was Eric. I don't know. I can't remember.
Okay. Anyway, right. So, just after the first lockdown, we created our Spotify playlist. Now, the idea behind this was that me and Neil King, we decided let's make the ultimate musicals playlist. So Neil and I, we both put 10 songs together to get the playlist set up and started, because no one's going to listen to a playlist with 2 songs. So we thought, let's put 10 songs in each, that way we get it started. And we chose songs that either songs that we've performed, they've come from shows that we've been in, or shows that mean something special to us. So in amongst my ones, there's Suddenly Seymour. Always wanted to play Seymour, but never got the chance.
Aww.
And now I'm too old. So that's one of the ones that on my list. I think I'm too old for Seymour now. Seymour needs to be sort of young for it. Wait For It from Hamilton. I absolutely adore Hamilton, and that's a fantastic song. And Seasons of Love was sung by a group of friends at mine and Emma's wedding.
Oh.
Which was ace. So those were some of the reasons why I put mine in. But looking further down the list, which is getting quite substantial now, we've got Nicky Openshaw chose You'll Be Found from Dear Evan Hansen. Liam Bean chose Getting Married Today from Company, and that's the 2018 cast, so that's the one with Bobby as a female. David Artist chose The American Dream from Miss Saigon, which you were in, weren't you?
I was.
Yes.
Yes.
And
we don't talk about that anymore, though, because I was in a bikini on stage, and nobody needs to think about that ever again.
And Laura Corkle chose I Won't Say I'm in Love from Disney's Hercules.
Good song.
Which I think is one of your favourites, isn't it? Yeah. So, Kate, go on then. Kate, you go first. What's your song, and what's your reason why?
I'm going for, because I can't see any Hello Dolly on here, and Hello Dolly is my favourite show of all time, and my dream role is Dolly Levi. So I'm going for Before the Parade Passes By from Hello Dolly. And my personal attachment to Hello Dolly is because my nana introduced me to Hello Dolly. She had it on VHS, and she used to put it on when I used to go there in the holidays, and I just fell in love with it because she loved it. So every time I hear any of the music from it, it just makes me think of her. So that would be my first choice every time.
Brilliant. And Phil, you were in that show as well, weren't you?
I was, yes.
Mr. Horace Vandergeld.
Horace Vandergeld, yes. I sound a bit more like Jimmy Durante when I did it, but yes. That was... I enjoyed that.
Good. What's your song, Phil?
Well, obviously, apart from Officer Crabtree's number in Hello, Hello, the musical, which we don't quite know what it is yet.
Good moaning.
It's good moaning. I think I'd probably have to go back to one of 2. I was in a show called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which we took to the Edinburgh Festival when I was in Gloucester, playing to audiences that were sort of like 7, 20 past 3 in the afternoon. And there's a song in that which I quite like, which is called The Baseball Game, which obviously nobody will ever have heard of. And if I can't have that because it's too obscure, then I'll go for Charlie Girl again, which is even more obscure. And there's a song in that which is a bit like British music hall, sort of Any Old Iron sort of song. And it's a song called Fish and Chips.
Do you know, I heard
And-
that played on Elaine Page about 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Oh, right. Okay, well...
And I think it was Paul Nicholas, maybe?
Yes, he was, because Paul Nicholas, they revived it in the 80s. Paul Nicholas would have done it. So that was probably my song, Fish and Chips. And because it's the show that I'd just done before I came over here, it's the song I sang for my audition to get into the Manx Ops.
Oh, wow.
Aye.
So that will be my song then.
Tell you what, Phil, if I can find them both, I'll stick them both on for you.
Okay.
Okay, well, guys, I think that is us. Right, yeah, so thank you very much for joining me. Annie Get Your Gun is running at the Gaiety Theatre from 18th to the 25th of March. On Tuesday the 21st of March, there will be a captioned performance. If you haven't done so already, make sure to get your tickets from villagaiety.com, the Welcome Centre, or by calling 600 555. Phil, Kate, thanks for joining me on the podcast, and I wish you and everyone at the Manx Operatic Society all the very best for Annie Get Your Gun.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for
It's
having
made a
us.
hoot.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Manx Theatre Podcast.
Don't forget, coming up this week at Kensington Arts on Friday 17th and Saturday the 18th of March, the National Theatre Connections Isle of Man group are staging their production of Innocent Creatures, which is their entry into this year's National Theatre's Connection competition. Each year, the National Theatre commissions 10 brand new plays for young people to perform, bringing together some of the UK's most exciting writers with the theatre makers of tomorrow. 300 youth theatre companies and over 6,000 young people from every corner of the UK are producing a Connections play this year. The Innocent Creature synopsis says, "Soon, very soon, Big Ben will be underwater surrounded by ice floes," which is where we meet Enid and Mia as they wait to be rescued by the robots in helicopters who will take them to the Holiday Inn to be reprogrammed. Fast forward a few thousand years where Enid and Mia meet again, just as the scorching hot sun is about to set one final beautiful time. A thought-provoking experience set in the future, both imminent and far away. Join them on this adventure before the world ends. Now, there is a note to this. It says parental discretion is advised as this show contains coarse language and mature themes. Some lighting used in the show that may be disruptive to people who are sensitive to light. Now, the cast includes Rowan Weeks, Sophie Heinsohn, Fionn Holder, Lacey Cannell, Scarlett Brophy, Eve Pazar, Lexi Forbes, David Livesey, Joey Hills, Imogen Cowell, Lola Sutton, Emily Musgrove, Maddie Wood, Sophie Hewitt, Zach Colligan, and Anna Bragaglia. Apologies, Anna, if I've pronounced your surname wrong. Also at Kensington Arts in the coming months, we have Everybody's Talking About Jamie Teen Edition from the 20th to 22nd of April, and Disney's Frozen Junior from the 27th to the 29th of July. Tickets will be available to book for all of these performances by visiting their website, kensingtonarts.im. Well, with that, we bring episode 44 to a close. Thanks once again to Phil and Kate for joining me on the podcast, and we wish them and everyone involved at the Manx Operatic Society's production of Annie Get Your Gun all the very best for their run. If you've not done so already, you can get your tickets from the villagaiety.com or by calling 600 555. Remember to like and follow our social media pages to get notifications of upcoming episodes and events. Don't forget to check out our Spotify playlist by searching for Manx Theatre Podcast, and that's all one word. There's 70 tracks there now, and nearly 5 hours of show tunes there to satisfy your musical theatre needs. If you have any events that you'd like us to talk about or promote on a future episode, you can contact us through our social media accounts or by email to manxtheatrepodcast@gmail.com. All that remains is to say thanks for listening, and I hope you join me again next time. I've been Neil Callin, and you've been listening to the Manx Theatre Podcast. Goodbye.
The Manx Theatre Podcast, taking a look behind the scenes of Manx Theatre.
And happier than actors alive for me.